The bustling mall was alive with the sounds of chatter, laughter, and the faint hum of background music. Bright lights illuminated every corner, drawing shoppers to glittering storefronts, each one a tiny beacon of commercial delight. It was a typical Saturday afternoon, and the crowd was thick with families, teenagers, and bargain hunters eager to snag a deal. Amidst this, no one would have guessed that an unassuming figure wearing jeans, a plain hoodie, and a red "Make America Great Again" hat would become the focal point of a story that would soon grip the nation. Mall manager Claire Summers had a reputation for running a tight ship. Efficient, polished, and authoritative, she prided herself on maintaining an environment that was welcoming to everyone. Or at least, that's how she described it. So when she spotted the man in the controversial hat casually strolling into the food court, something about him caught her attention. Maybe it was the hat. Maybe it was his relaxed demeanor, as if he didn't care what people thought. Or maybe it was just the fact that his presence seemed to cause a ripple effect wherever he went. Whispers, pointing fingers, and a few glares. Claire adjusted her blazer and strode toward the man with purpose. She didn't recognize him, but the hat alone was enough to raise her concerns. In recent months, the mall had seen its fair share of heated debates and confrontations, many of them sparked by divisive symbols like the one perched on this stranger's head. She didn't want trouble, and she certainly didn't want to risk alienating her shoppers. Her priority was to keep the peace. "Excuse me, sir," she said, her voice firm but polite as she approached him near a pretzel stand. The man turned, to face her, and for a brief moment she faltered. There was something vaguely familiar about his face, though she couldn't quite place it. His piercing eyes met hers with a calm curiosity. "Yes," he replied, his tone friendly but measured. "I'm Claire Summers, the mall manager. I'm going to have to ask you to remove your hat or preferably leave the premises," she said, folding her arms to emphasize her authority. The man raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback. "I'm sorry, is there a rule against wearing hats in this mall?" "It's not about the hat itself," Claire replied, her voice growing sharper. "It's about the message it sends. We've had incidents before, and I can't allow anything that might create a hostile environment for our patrons." The man's expression didn't change, but the hint of a smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "I see," he said. "You're worried about other people's reactions to my hat, not my behavior." "That's correct," Claire said, crossing her arms more tightly. "We're trying to maintain a neutral space here." "Neutral," the man repeated, as if testing the word. He removed the hat and studied it for a moment before placing it back on his head. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm not causing any trouble. I'm just here to grab a coffee." Claire felt her patience thinning. The last thing she wanted was a scene, but this man was pushing her. "Sir, I'm giving you one last chance. Either remove the hat or leave." The man sighed and shook his head. "You're making a bigger deal out of this than anyone else here," he said. "But if that's how you feel, I'll leave. I don't want to cause you any more stress." Turned and began walking toward the exit. Claire exhaled, relieved to have avoided a confrontation. But as the man reached the door, something happened that she didn't expect. A small group of people who had been watching the interaction followed him. Then more joined in, until nearly 24 people trailed him out of the mall, leaving their shopping bags and half-eaten food behind. Claire stood frozen, her mind racing. What was going on? She stepped outside to see the man standing in the parking lot, surrounded by the impromptu crowd. Phones were out, cameras rolling. Some people were shouting questions, while others were simply staring. And then, someone said, had the words that made Claire's stomach drop, "Elon Musk, is that you?" The man turned, his face breaking into a grin. "Guilty as charged," he said with a chuckle. Claire's heart sank as the realization hit her like a freight train. The man she had just kicked out of her mall wasn't just anyone. He was Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur, tech mogul, and global celebrity. And now, thanks to her, he was the center of a rapidly growing spectacle. Within minutes, the parking lot was buzzing with activity. Word spread like wildfire, and more people began to gather. Cars pulled up, their occupants jumping out to catch a glimpse of the Tesla and SpaceX founder. Social media was ablaze with videos of Claire confronting Musk, racking up thousands of views in real time. Claire felt a wave of panic. This wasn't just a PR nightmare, it was an unmitigated disaster. She pushed her way through the crowd, trying to reach Musk. "Mr. Musk," she called, her voice shaking. I didn't realize it was you. Please come back inside, we can sort this out." But Musk shook his head, his smile never wavering. "Thank you, but I think I'm fine out here," he said. "It seems I've already found better company." The crowd cheered, and Claire felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. She was losing control of the situation, and she knew it. But then, something unexpected happened. Musk raised a hand to quiet the crowd. "Everyone," he said, his voice carrying an air of authority that silenced the chatter. "Let's not hold grudges. The manager here was just doing her job, trying to keep the peace. Let's give her a break." Claire blinked in surprise. Was he defending her? "But," Musk continued, his tone shifting, "this does raise an interesting question about tolerance and freedom of expression. I wore this hat today not to make a statement, but to see how people would react. And I think we've all learned something valuable." The crowd murmured in agreement, their attention fixed on Musk. Claire felt a mixture of relief and unease. She had expected him to lash out, to criticize her publicly. Instead, he was turning the situation into a teachable moment. As Musk continued speaking, Claire realized just how adept he was at commanding an audience. He spoke about the importance of dialogue, understanding, and respecting different perspectives. By the time he finished, the crowd was hanging on his every word, and then, as if on cue, Musk turned to Claire and offered his hand. "No hard feelings?" he asked. Claire hesitated for a moment before taking his hand. "No hard feelings," she said, though her voice was barely audible. The crowd erupted into applause, and Claire felt a strange mix of emotions: embarrassment, gratitude, and a grudging admiration for the man she had just tried to kick out. What happened next was even more unexpected. Musk pulled out his phone and tweeted about the incident, tagging the mall and praising Claire for her dedication to her job, even in challenging situations. Within minutes, the tweet went viral, and the mall's social media accounts were flooded with messages of support, curiosity, and excitement. By the end of the day, the mall had seen a surge in foot traffic, with people eager to visit the place where Elon Musk made a statement. Claire's initial embarrassment was overshadowed by the realization that the incident had turned into a marketing boon. And though she would never admit it out loud, she couldn't help but feel a strange sense of gratitude toward Musk for his forgiveness, his perspective, and his uncanny ability to turn a moment of tension into something unforgettable. The following Monday, Claire sat in her office, still trying to wrap her head around everything that had transpired. The weekend's events had been surreal, to say the least. News outlets were running stories about the mall incident. Social media was still buzzing, and her inbox was overflowing with emails, some congratulatory, others criticizing her initial actions. The mall itself was experiencing an unprecedented boom in visitors. People were coming from nearby towns, some even from neighboring states, just to walk through the food court where the confrontation had taken place. Vendors were thrilled. Sales had skyrocketed. The pretzel stand near where Musk had stood was now offering an Elon special, a cinnamon pretzel with a splash of red icing. Claire, however, was on edge. She didn't like being the center of attention, and she certainly didn't enjoy the thought of being labeled the woman who kicked Elon Musk out of a mall. Even though Musk had diffused the situation with grace, she couldn't shake the memory of how tense and out of control everything had felt. Her phone buzzed on the desk. It was another call from the mall's corporate office. They had already called her 3 times that morning, asking for updates on how she was handling the sudden surge in visitors. She didn't pick up. Instead, she leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling, and wondered what Elon Musk was doing right now. Did he even remember her? Or had he moved on, as billionaires often seem to do, leaving chaos in their wake? Her train of thought was interrupted by a knock at the door. She glanced up to see her assistant Kyle peeking in. "Claire, you might want to come downstairs," he said, looking slightly nervous. Why? What now? She asked, dreading the answer. It's him. He's back. Claire's stomach dropped. Elon Musk is back here, at the mall? Kyle nodded. And he's not alone. There's a crowd. A big one. Claire shot to her feet, her pulse quickening. She didn't know whether to be terrified or relieved. What could he possibly want this time? She smoothed her blazer, took a deep breath, and headed for the escalators. When she reached the ground floor, she was met with a scene that felt like something out of a movie. A massive crowd had gathered near the food court, phones held high to record the moment. And there, standing in the center of it all, was Elon Musk. He wasn't wearing the MAGA hat this time, but he still looked every bit as composed and confident as he had before. Claire pushed her way through the throng of people, her heart pounding. As she approached, Musk caught sight of her and smiled. He raised a hand in greeting, and the crowd parted slightly to let her through. Claire, just the person I was hoping to see, he said, his voice carrying easily over the murmurs of the crowd. She forced a smile, her professional instincts kicking in. Mr. Musk, this is unexpected. What brings you back here today? Well, he said, gesturing around him. After our little incident, I realized I hadn't actually had the chance to shop or eat. So I figured I'd come back and do that properly. Claire blinked, unsure if he was joking. You came back to shop? Exactly, Musk said, his tone light. But more importantly, I wanted to have a chat with you. Privately, if that's all right. The crowd buzzed with curiosity, but Musk raised a hand to calm them. Don't worry, folks, I'll be back in a few minutes. Just need to borrow your fearless mall manager for a quick conversation. Before Claire could protest, Musk gently steered her toward a quieter corner of the mall, away from the prying eyes and phone cameras. Once they were alone, he turned to her with an expression that was equal parts serious and amused. Claire, he began, I want you to know I respect how you handled the situation the other day. You were firm, professional, and clearly dedicated to your job, but I also think you might have missed an opportunity. An opportunity, she echoed, still trying to process everything. Yes, Musk said. An opportunity to turn a potentially divisive moment into a unifying one. Symbols like that hat can stir up strong feelings, but they're also a chance to start conversations, to find common ground. You have a platform here as the manager of this mall to foster those kinds of interactions. Claire frowned, unsure how to respond. I was just trying to keep the peace, to make sure everyone felt safe. And that's admirable, Musk said, his tone warm. But safety doesn't always mean avoiding tough topics. Sometimes it means creating a space where people can talk, share their perspectives, and learn from each other. That's what I was hoping to do with that hat. It wasn't about politics. It was about sparking a dialogue. Claire was quiet. For a moment, his words sinking in. She had never thought of her role in those terms before. To her, the mall was just a place where people shopped and ate. But maybe it could be more than that. As Claire sat in her dimly lit office that night, the weight of everything began to settle on her. The chaos of the past few days, the unexpected return of Elon Musk, and his cryptic parting message left her head spinning. She twirled the card between her fingers, the embossed name and number catching the light. It was surreal to think that one of the most influential men in the world had taken the time not only to return to her mall, but also to share advice that, for the first time in years, made her question how she approached her job. Her phone buzzed on the desk, pulling her from her thoughts. A notification from Twitter lit up the screen. She opened it and her stomach flipped as she saw Musk's latest tweet. Had a fantastic visit to a local mall today. Great conversations, lots of learning moments. Respect to Claire Summers for running a tight ship. Watch this space, something exciting is brewing. Her heart skipped a beat. Something exciting? What was he talking about? The tweet had already garnered thousands of likes and comments, with people speculating about everything from a new Tesla store opening in the mall to Musk launching some kind of mall-themed project. Claire had no idea what he meant, but the fact that her name was now attached to the billionaire's plans sent her anxiety through the roof. The next morning, Claire arrived at the mall earlier than usual. Despite the early hour, there was already a small crowd outside, buzzing with anticipation. News crews had set up near the entrance, cameras ready to catch any glimpse of Elon Musk or whatever mysterious event he had hinted at in his tweet. Vendors scrambled to restock their shelves, and security was on high alert. Claire's assistant, Kyle, was waiting for her at the entrance, looking frazzled. "Claire, it's already crazy, and it's not even 9 a.m. We've got reporters asking for statements, shoppers camping out, and vendors trying to figure out if they need to offer Elon-themed promotions. What do we do?" Claire took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "We keep things running as smoothly as possible. Let's make sure security is visible but not overbearing, and tell the vendors to focus on serving customers, not capitalizing on the chaos." As she walked through the mall, she couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. Every step felt like it was leading her toward some inevitable climax, though she couldn't imagine what it might be. That is, until her phone buzzed again, another notification from Twitter. This time, Musk had shared a live location, the mall's central atrium. The caption read, "Come find me here at 10 a.m. Let's talk about the future of connection and community." Claire's jaw dropped. It was happening. Whatever it was happening in her mall, and she was right in the middle of it. By the time 10 a.m. rolled around, the central atrium was packed. The energy in the air was electric, a mixture of excitement, curiosity, and nervous anticipation. Claire stood off to the side, her hands clasped tightly as she watched the crowd swell. And then, right on cue, Musk appeared. He wasn't flanked by security or assistants. He simply walked into the atrium, casual as ever, and took his place on a small makeshift stage that had been set up overnight. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice calm but commanding. The crowd erupted in cheers, and it took a few moments for them to quiet down. "I'm here today because I believe malls, places like this one, can be more than just spaces for shopping. They can be spaces for innovation, for connection, for community. And that's something I want to explore." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Now, I know some of you are wondering what I mean by that, so let me explain. I've been working on an idea, an experiment really. I want to transform a mall like this one into a hub for creativity and collaboration, a place where entrepreneurs, artists, and thinkers can come together to share ideas, build projects, and solve problems. And I think this mall might be the perfect place to start." The crowd murmured in awe, and Claire felt her knees weaken. Was he serious? Her mall? "Of course," Musk continued. "None of this happens without the people who make it possible. The shoppers, the vendors, the staff, and the leadership." He turned his gaze toward Claire, and for a moment, she felt like the entire world was watching her. "Claire Summers has shown incredible dedication and leadership, and I believe she's the right person to help guide this transformation." Claire's breath caught in her throat as the crowd erupted into applause. She hadn't asked for this. She hadn't even known this was a possibility. But now, here she was, being thrust into the spotlight in a way she never could have anticipated. After the announcement, Musk spent hours mingling with the crowd, answering questions and elaborating on his vision. Claire stayed close, trying to absorb everything. Claire didn't sleep much that night. Her mind raced with thoughts of Musk's bold vision and her unexpected role in it. She had gone from managing food court squabbles and holiday crowd surges to becoming a key figure in what could be one of the most groundbreaking projects of the decade. It felt surreal, like a dream she hadn't quite woken up from. But as the hours ticked by and the first rays of sunlight peeked through her bedroom window, a new feeling began to settle over her. Resolve. If this was happening, she wasn't going to let herself be overwhelmed by it. She was going to rise to the occasion. The next morning, Claire arrived at the mall to find it buzzing with even more activity than the day before. Reporters were setting up outside, hoping for a follow-up statement from Musk. Vendors were doubling down on their newly themed promotions, with banners boasting slogans like "Shop where the future begins" plastered over storefronts. And, in the central atrium, a team of Musk's employees had already started setting up what looked like a temporary command center, complete with sleek workstations, large monitors, and Tesla logos everywhere. Claire approached one of the staff members, a young man with a headset and an iPad. "Excuse me," she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "I'm Claire Summers, the mall manager. Can you tell me what's going on here?" The man smiled. "Oh, hi, Ms. Summers. Mr. Musk left instructions to get things rolling this morning. We're setting up a community engagement hub to start gathering input from shoppers and vendors. He wants everyone to have a voice in this transformation." Claire nodded slowly. It was impressive how quickly Musk's team could mobilize, but it also made her feel like she was running to catch up. "That's great," she said. "But I'd appreciate it if someone could loop me in on these plans. After all, this is still my mall, for now at least." "Of course," the man said with a grin. "Mr. Musk actually mentioned he wanted to speak with you first thing. He's in the food court." Claire sighed, a mix of nerves and determination building in her chest. She made her way to the food court, which had been partially cordoned off for Musk and his entourage. There he was, sitting casually at a table with a steaming cup of coffee and what looked like one of the mall's famous pretzels. "Claire," he called out as soon as he saw her, waving her over. "Good to see you. Grab a seat." She hesitated for a moment before sitting across from him. "Good morning, Mr. Musk. I see things are already moving pretty quickly." "They always do," he said with a shrug. "But don't worry, you're still in charge here. I'm just here to nudge things in the right direction." Claire folded her hands on the table, meeting his gaze. "I appreciate the vote of confidence yesterday, but I have to be honest. This all feels a little overwhelming. I've spent years running this mall a certain way, and now everything's changing practically overnight." Musk nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Change is hard, I get that. But you have something most people don't: the ability to adapt and lead under pressure. I saw that in how you handled the situation with me last week. You didn't let your emotions get the better of you, and you stood your ground. That's exactly the kind of leadership this project needs." Claire bit her lip, trying to absorb his words. "But what exactly is this project? Turning the mall into a hub for innovation sounds exciting, but what does that actually mean? How is this going to work?" Musk leaned back in his chair, his eyes lighting up with the enthusiasm of someone who lived for big ideas. "It starts with creating spaces where people can collaborate. Imagine this mall not just as a place to shop, but as a place to create. We'll have co-working spaces, pop-up workshops, and tech demo stations where people can try out the latest innovations. We'll bring in guest speakers, host hackathons, and provide opportunities for local entrepreneurs to pitch their ideas." He gestured around the food court. "This could be the first place where someone's wild idea turns into the next Tesla or SpaceX. And it could all start right here, in your mall." Claire couldn't help but feel a spark of excitement. It was an ambitious vision, but there was something undeniably inspiring about it. "It sounds incredible," she admitted, "but it also sounds expensive. Who's funding all of this?" Musk grinned. "I am, of course. Consider it an investment in the future. Besides, I think it'll pay for itself once people see what we're building here." Claire leaned back, the enormity of it all sinking in. "And what's my role in all of this?" "You'll be the bridge," Musk said simply. "The person who connects my team with the community. You know this mall better than anyone. You know the vendors, the customers, the pulse of the place. Your job will be to help us integrate this vision without losing what makes this mall special."